I just banished a comment, struck it right from underneath the video. They said, "Old man, why don't you clean your room?" They're worried about whether my room is clean. The world is going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm supposed to clean my room? There are many other things of great importance that I should deal with rather than cleaning the room. I did straighten the beer bottle out in the bear behind me's hands and put the possum on his head, but that's the extent of changes that I've made in this room in the last 5 years. But someday I might do it. Lots happened in the news. First of all, a story in Japan. Japan's oldest citizen. I went to congratulate the old guy. Lived well over 100 years, only to find that he died 30 years ago and he's still laying in his recliner. No one seemed to notice. Could that be one of the horsemen of the apocalypse that just passed? I don't know. I'm telling you, it's getting serious, friends. Now, that distracted me, and then the dog barked. How am I going to make a stellar video with all these distractions? The old man, in his chair 30 years. They asked the neighbor. I hadn't seen him around. It worries me. Us old people that live by ourselves, I've got one of those ADT security systems, motion detectors, the whole thing. But I don't have a button to push if I fall down and can't get up. So it's about as useless as a whip socket in an automobile. I suppose if I pay another $35 or $40 a month, I could get something like that. But it's a concern. I think senior citizens should be required, since Obama's passing all these laws. We should require seniors to turn their porch light on at night, and then when they get up and they're alive in the morning, they turn it off. If it stays on, then the neighbors could say, "Whoop, the old man hasn't turned off his porch light. He's probably dead," and they would come and investigate. But in my case, the bill collectors would probably find me. But it worries me that I'll fall asleep someday in my recliner and wake up dead 30 years have passed, and then somebody will find me, and I probably won't be looking my best. That's a concern. We've had so much happen. As school buses are running into each other, give it to you in a nutshell. The problem with that wreck, whether they're going to say it or not, I don't know why they haven't said it, is the buses were following too close. There's no excuse. You can't say, "I was changing lanes, so I missed a semi-truck and an SUV colliding right in front of me, so I ran into him, and then the guy behind didn't leave enough room, so he hit that bus, and a bunch of people are injured and some are killed." Buses don't follow that close. They weigh 20 tons. Give them some space. Enough on that. Proposition 8. Church and state cannot be mingled together. I am a Christian. I'm very devout, probably one of the more religious people you will run into. But I don't try to force what I believe onto you. There is nothing in common between my religious beliefs, which are like 2,000 years old, and the fundamentalist lunatics that preach a gospel of hatred. And I would rather listen to an atheist than listen to somebody who's twisted and misinterpreted the Holy Scriptures. I consider these people heretics. And I choose to just tell them one thing when they approach me at the door, and that is, you have no authority to talk to me about religion. Go away. We've all got to learn to say that to these wacko lunatics that feel God could create the universe with one thought. Yeah, God forgot a bunch of stuff, that they have to have somebody speak in tongues, which is just a bunch of gobbledygook and gibberish, like people in mental hospitals speak all the time. A lot of them speak in tongues. And then someone else interprets it so it's secondhand right from the beginning. But what are they saying? God is an incompetent and he couldn't put in his book what he expected? And they believe it's the only source, too. They'll tell you that, though it doesn't say anywhere in that book that it is the only source. It does say 5 times or so that it is tradition and scripture. But they forget about that tradition stuff, and that tradition is not hatred. So, the other thing is this thing about UFOs. Man, how do you put this all in a 10-minute video? I don't know. Winston Churchill had information about the UFOs, came from pilots, well-trained pilots, who were not prone to hallucinations. He hid the information, said, don't show anyone this for 50 years. Well, the 50 years are up, and they're showing it to us. And believe me, I don't know what they are. I don't know who pilots those things. Little green men. I don't know if they're piloted by former Nazis. They did have UFOs, you know. But somehow after the war, we decided we'd take rockets and forget about the UFOs. I can't explain these things. I just know that it isn't funny, and I see the man in the network news laugh and joke about it. That distresses me greatly. So, I think we've covered a few of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I wish this was hey, I'm used to a 4-hour radio show. What a final shot in the end. These teachers that are being fired because the students aren't passing state tests. I just talked to one. He'd been teaching 20 years. He's going to be fired. And he asked me, how is he to teach English to a bunch of kids that don't speak English, who are in gangs, who at the first sign of confusion drop out of school? And then the kids that have been in the schools for all these years, in our schools, they don't pass the test because they've spent all their time trying to explain to kids that don't speak English. And we blame the teacher. I don't understand. It's madness. I'm glad I work in a system where the kids come from farms and rural communities, or they're in a parochial school where the parents have good sums of money to send them there. I don't run into those problems, but they're problems we should deal with. I'd love to talk about illegal immigrants. I have some opinions about them, but I'll sum it up in one thing. There's a big difference between an illegal immigrant and an immigrant, yet we don't want to make that distinction. There is a big difference. These are people who come across the border. These are people who, when they can't find a job here, resort to stealing, and they justify that because they can't find a job. $356 billion a year is spent in 15 government programs for illegal immigrants. You know, I'm not an expert, but I think we have to start dealing with this very soon, if you will excuse me.